We'll reconvene at 7:41. Item F4, Administrator Rhodes.
Thank you, Chair Danzel. Item F4 is to authorize the district administrator to terminate the license and permit agreement with Save Our Cats and Kittens Sensibly, SOCS, for trap, neuter, return, TNR, services in Hagan Community Park.
Thank you.
And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Dobbs.
Well, as you all are very familiar with the fact that Scotty Moore passed away earlier this year, and with her passing, pretty much what has happened is that the group that was part of SOCS pretty much disbanded, and they went ahead and joined another organization called Cordova Whisker Warriors. And they've been assuming many of the responsibilities here recently. But since they are no longer part of SOCS, it's necessary for us to go ahead and terminate this agreement that we have that exists now before we can establish a new agreement at this time. So the work continues, but we need to go ahead and formalize the process here.
Great, thank you, Mr. Dobbs. Any questions from the board? Any questions?
I have a question.
Vice Chair
So, Mr. Dobbs, I guess the new group, you talked to them, and would the same program be happening at Hagan and with the person coming in and feeding the cats at 4 in the morning?
Basically, it's a similar, quite a few more volunteers. They're very well organized. They are in constant communication with our staff. They do not enter the park until after 6 o'clock in the morning when we open up the park. Very cooperative. They've actually come into our corporation yard with our assistants to trap cats and go ahead and do the TNR process with them and reintroduce them into the park setting. We are still getting quite a few people dropping off cats. I'm not sure what it is about Hagan Park, but people come out there and they just drop off their cats. And this is a good way for us to go ahead and at least take care of the feral cat problem so we don't have a huge boom of kittens and being born out there that are actually starving or proposing a health risk to the populace. So they're actually doing a really good job.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Any public speakers cards, Ms. Jones?
No.
None? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
I move the Board of Directors authorize the District Administrator to terminate the license and permit agreement with Save Our Cats and Kittens Sensibly, SOCS, for trap, neuter, return, TNR services in Hagan Community Park.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Director Yearwood. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second by Vice Chair Sloan. Roll call vote.
Director Yearwood,
Aye.
Secretary Lineback,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sloan,
Aye.
Chair Danzel,
Aye.
and Director Reyes is absent.
Thank you. Motion passes. Item F5.
Yes, item F5 is to adopt Resolution 15/16-20 and authorize the district administrator to record the grant deed for 3 parcels conveying title of real property within North Douglas Village, 7 and 8, residential development for landscape corridors to the district. The district and Lennar Homes of California Incorporated entered into a park development agreement for the development known as North Douglas on April 24, 2006. Within the agreement, the developers agreed to improve certain landscape corridors and deed such land to the district. The district agreed to maintain the parcels with funding through the Sunridge Community Facilities District, which would be the CFD. The developer provided the preliminary title report for 3 completed parcels and has provided signed grant deeds to the district. District will assume responsibility for maintenance of the accepted 3 parcels upon completion of the contractor's maintenance period on August 24th, 2015. If approved by the board at this meeting, the grant deeds will be filed with the Sacramento County on August 25th, 2015, triggering the district's official ownership. With that, we'll be happy to answer any additional questions.
Any questions from the board? Any speaker cards, Ms. Jones? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion. I move that we adopt Resolution 15/16-20 and authorize the district administrator to record the grant deed for 3 parcels conveying title of real property within North Douglas Village 7 and 8 residential development for landscape corridors to the district.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor from Vice Chair Sloan. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a second by Secretary Langbach. Roll call vote.
Director Yearwood,
Aye.
Secretary Lineback,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sloan,
Aye.
Chair Danzel,
Aye.
Director Reyes is absent.
Thank you. Motion passes. Item F6.
Yes, the last regular calendar item for this evening, item F6, is to adopt Resolution 15/16-21 and authorize the district administrator to record the grant deed and reservation of easement conveying title of real property of 1.08 remaining acres of the Villages of Zinfandel Bike Trail on Unit 9 to the district and establish a pedestrian easement. On January 25th, 2001, the district and Allied Homes entered into a memorandum of agreement for the dedication of certain land pursuant to the Sacramento County Land Dedication and in lieu fee ordinance, as more particularly described in that development agreement dated on January 24th, 2001. Elliott Homes Incorporated has since transferred the title of real property at 3300 Zinfandel LLC, a California limited liability company who is the developer. Within the transfer agreement, the developer has agreed to accept the outstanding condition from Elliott Homes Incorporated and dedicated the remaining 1.08 acre portion of the parcel to the district, formally completing a 67.77 acre network of parks and open spaces within the Villages of Zinfandel project. The developer has provided the preliminary title report and signed a grant deed to the district, which will allow the district to take ownership of the parcel. The district is currently engaged in a maintenance agreement for the parcel, which is already funded through the Villages of Zinfandel CFD. The grant deed will be filed with county on this date to start the district's ownership of the property. Upon acceptance of the land dedication, the district will provide an access easement to 3300 Zinfandel LLC and allow for the landscape improvements along a portion of the bike trail. These improvements are consistent with the City of Rancho Cordova approved entitlements for minor design review. The construction of 2 accessible pedestrian pathways through the existing bike trail will link a proposed parking lot with an existing office park. The resolution will establish an easement reserved for pedestrian access across the dedicated parcel as shown in Exhibit B. That we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board to the administrator? Ms. Jones, any public speaker cards? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
I move the Board of Directors adopt Resolution 15/15-21 and authorize the district administrator to record the grant deed and reservation of easement conveying title of real property of a portion of the Villages of Zinfandel Bike Trail to the district and establish a pedestrian easement.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor by Secretary Lombard. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Director Yearwood. Roll call vote.
Director Yearwood,
Aye.
Secretary Lineback,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sloan, Chair Danzel,
Aye.
and Director Reyes is absent.
Thank you. Motion passes. Item G, Board of Director items.
Thank you, Chair Danzel. Turn myself off. Item G1 is board member reports.
Thank you. We will start with Director Yearwood.
Let's see, in the last month, or since the last meeting, on the 27th of July, I attended a workshop that was put on by RCAA with all of the local, most of the local sports organizations were there to kind of come up with a game plan and how they wanted to implement a program through the Positive Coaching Alliance. So they can kind of, they're hoping to be like the first community that kind of standardizes kind of what their code of conduct is with coaches, players, and parents through all of the local sports. So there was a lot of great things discussed there. They agreed to come back the next week, which was the August 5th, and at the regular RCA meeting, we spent a great amount of time discussing that and putting together like a mission statement, vision statement, and some or values, or there's something I'm forgetting. Maybe Director Sloan will remember what that third thing was we did. I also attended the special board meeting, communication standards on July 28th. I was at the concert at the park last Friday, August 7th. Great to see the district had a table out there. Staff was out there interacting with the community. It was a perfect night, and people were out there dancing. I think even Director Sloan was out there dancing, or he was at least taking pictures. Yeah, there may have been some dancing going on there. I also, over the weekend, attended the annual alumni picnic for Cordova High School, where I was talking to a gentleman I went to school with and worked with many decades ago about wanting to partner with the district for the Gold River Discovery Center so they could participate in middle school sports, because the San Juan district doesn't fund any of that. So he's hoping to talk to the district and see if there's some way to put a program together. So we're gonna see what we can do for him. Administrator Rodhams is gonna reach out to him, and I'm gonna reach out to him and see what we can do for them. What was the other thing I didn't have on there that I wanted to bring up? I walked around all the updates they're doing at Cordova, and it looks really good there by the new Performing Arts Theater. So it also makes that part of Hagen look like it could use a little touching up. So we might look into what we can do there reasonably to kind of ease that transition from their property over to our property now. So that's all I've got.
Great, thank you, Director Yearwood. Secretary Linebaugh.
I really don't have anything to add to what's in the report here, that I attended the communication standards meeting on July 28th. Other than that, I was on vacation.
Great, thank you. Vice Chair Sloan.
Okay. Let's see. On July 15th, I attended the California Association of Recreation and Park Districts Board meeting. And with that, we discussed the future of the next conference for 2016. And right now, there's a survey going out trying to figure out where we would like to hold that conference. The on the table was some of the Senate bills, two of them. Senate Bill 317, the Safe Neighborhood Parks, River, and Coastal Protection Bond Act of 2016. Right now, as it sits, per capita would be about $5 per person per district. That would be totaling like $200 million. They're trying to get it up to $500 million. So that'd be a much better amount of money per person, per district, which I think would be really, really helpful. The next one was the one that, if passes, could hurt the district, because the minimum wage adjustments could go up to 11 and then up to $13 an hour. And that could affect some districts throughout California. With that, on August 5th, I attended the Rancho Cordova Athletic Association meeting with Mike and rest of the clan. A lot of talk was about the Measure H update, how the school district maintenance is going to be donated, with the Measure H funding going into some of the supplies for some of the schools and the athletic, where they meet, or on school property. So a lot of the maintenance will be taken care of. Also talking about lights at the Little League field at Alstrom Park. So that's needs to be looked into through the district about the lights. October 17th is going to be the big Hall of Fame thing, and like Mike said, we talked about our vision and core values, and we're trying to get that all figured out. What the big thing too is this Saturday, August 15th, is Meet the Lancers. 6 to 8 at Village Green Park. They're going to have a big rally, and the junior Lancers will be there. And afterwards, they're going to have the cheerleaders will be there. They're award-winning cheerleaders. I think one of us named Yearwood. Is that correct? Oh, okay, yeah. And afterward, there's going to be a movie, a high school football movie. I forget the name of it. Do you know? I think it's Remember the Titans. Remember the Titans, or one of those things. That should be really interesting. Unfortunately, I will be out of town at a wedding, but I'm sure Mike will be there taking pictures, right? My phone. With your phone. Well, it won't be with my phone. Okay, and then next, on August 6th, I attended the Rosemont Community Association meeting, and when it came down to talking about the yearly celebration, they looked at me to make sure that I remind the district to unlock the posts or the bollards in the parking lot the night before, so they can bring in stuff. You're aware of that order? This is on August 22nd for Rosemont Community Park. They asked for that, and please don't water the night before. That was the comments from the Rosemont Association. Unlock the bollards in the parking lot, and don't water the night before.
Actually, I can cover that. All the direction has been given. They actually fill out an application for use of the park, even though we give it for free. And that those items, like every other event we do, are communicated through those documents to facilities. So
Okay.
they have it all.
All right, I guess they're just afraid that something might go wrong.
It is not uncommon that one incident, no matter how long ago it is, will always resound when making those requests. So
Right.
we're pretty diligent about
So
that.
that event is at 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. on August 22nd, and it should be a fun day. So if we can get district out there, it'd be nice. I know we're going to be out there representing a table. I also attended the 60s Summer of Love concert, and that was, I've never seen the park so full, and I got some great photographs. And this week is going to be Motown, so I'm going to go to the Party in the Park first at 5 o'clock, and then go to the Motown at 7 o'clock for the other concert. I'll probably go at 7:30 or something like that. They'll have trucks there, but I'll probably be so full from all the food at the Party in the Park. But that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Son. My report's simple. The communication standards, as we all attended, went over those, saw small things that we thought needed to be changed. I don't know if the administrator got any more feedback from anybody, so those will be being approved there shortly. Other than that, it was unfortunately for me, a slow month. Now that school's kicked back off, I had one start Tuesday. I've got another one starts tomorrow morning, so just back on track for school again. So, yeah, you're down to one, Mr. Yearwood, I know. That concludes board member reports. So item G is taken care of. Item G2, clerk of the board.
Thank you. Item G2A is regarding special district electronic filing of Form 700, the Statement of Economic Interests. And I attended an information session at the invitation of the county, along with other special districts, and Secretary Lineback was also there. The county notified us that beginning in 2016, all board members and filers of this district will be required to submit their Form 700 electronically. So they wanted to preview their system, which is called e-disclosure, and give a training on that system briefly. They really highlighted the necessity for each district to update its conflict of interest code. And I just want to say that actually our archiving project has helped with this process because we were unable for quite some time to figure out where our conflict of interest code was. We have since determined that and are working with the county. So I'm very pleased to be updating that, and I plan to bring that to you at the September 16th meeting. There's going to be plenty of training offered for everybody on this system. There's going to be in-person training offered in December by the county, and also we will be showing an online video to the board and staff at a later date. I just wanted to remind everybody that they've been used to receiving communications from me on this item, but with the new system, you will be receiving all memos, correspondence, and notices directly from the county. So start looking for those emails beginning January 2016. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Item H, presentations. We do have one item H1. Mr. Goodell, your continuation from July.
We haven't had enough finance talk tonight, so we'll continue with some more. For your listening pleasure. So, right, this is my quarterly report for the months of April, May, and June. It includes some hot topics and things that we've been doing recently. Policy is obviously a big project that we've been working on, and we look forward to completing that hopefully in the next couple of months and bringing that forward to the board. There's some items that we've already completed, and there's a list of policies that we're working on currently. And again, I look forward to bringing that final document at that time. We also have a financial snapshot of what the year end looks like. Again, this was done prior to the year end, so we did have some year end adjustments. The auditors still have to go through and make theirs as well. But this gives a kind of a picture of where we were at the middle of June. It does include all our salaries. That is up to date through the end of June, since we have to process our payroll prior to June 30th. So that made it. But there are some expenditures that still had to come through for other expenditures, administrative, contractual, general operations, utilities, and such. But overall, it looked pretty good. We had $315,000 available at the end of the year, in the last 2 weeks, per our budget. And our revenues also, even though it shows here as a negative $35,000 variance, that's actually a positive. The county does it differently where the revenues are negative. And also on the property taxation, I'd like to speak to that. It showed that we're short $138,000. We were funded some additional funds at the end of the year by June 30th of $113,000. So we're off by our taxation estimation of $20,000, $25,000. So that's pretty good for $3.5 million of a guess. Otherwise, things are pretty straightforward. Nothing stood out heavily that I was concerned about. Those are our operation snapshot for the year. And that's what I have for my quarterly report.
Thank you, Mr. Goodell. Any questions for Mr. Goodell on this quarterly report? Secretary Lombard.
Very brief question. Did you get the cell tower money?
Yes, I received it on June 28th, I believe. Yeah, right. So it made our last year's fund balance. So that was part of the 1.6 final general fund balance that we had positive, which is great. Of course, it was a one-time revenue, but we look forward to stabilizing and increasing that reserve amount moving forward. So, yeah.
Any other questions on this quarterly report? Hearing none, we're going to move on to item I, comments by staff on non-agenda items. Item I1, department head reports.
I'm sorry?
Matt's back in.
Once again, you have in front of you the department head reports. Staff is available to answer any questions that you may have in regards to those.
Director Yearwood, do you have any questions for Mr. Goodell on his financial report? Secretary Lineback?
Matt, this curious citizen, I'm a little curious about this citizen.
Curious Citizen's actually in our attendance and our audience today, and no, she's great. Every once in a while, someone's interested in our finances, and I entertain them. I love for them to come in and talk about it. Of course, it's my passion. So anytime I get a chance to discuss what's going on in our district financially and educate the public on what's going on, I think it's a good thing. So, yeah, we had a great conversation exactly about our general fund and what our property tax dollars are distributed to.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Goodell? Let's move on to park planning and development with Miss Laura Taylor. She is not here, but we do have her stand-in. Any questions for park planning? Mr. Yearwood. Secretary Lineback?
And just briefly on the Federspiel Park sidewalks, mentioning the removal of trees. So I was just wondering if you could tell us about how they're going to be replaced.
Yeah, the city had a community meeting at which we were in attendance and selected with the community to give their input on what trees, if we were to remove certain trees, what trees they would like to replace. So we took that feedback and issued it to the the consultant who will be working on that. So they'll select trees based on what the community's outreach was. The trees that are going to be removed are in line with the proposed sidewalk. There are several trees that are dead and dying, so they are a hazard, and those will be removed first. The exact trees are yet to be determined, but the city had hired an arborist who went out and verified the trees and took a report on their condition. And I gave that to Jerry, who also took a look at and reviewed their comments and their assessment and agreed with them, and felt that it was pertinent that we remove them as soon as possible. So they will be replaced. The exact trees to be removed and replaced are to be determined.
Thank you. Vice Chair Sloan?
Yeah, I have a question. The Rancho Cordova Little League on the Allstrom Park barrier netting, is that their batting cage?
I think I can cover that. I'm not sure if
I believe that one.
Linda's been working on this. These were the poles they installed without our knowledge for the net they were putting along the third baseline to protect foul balls from going into the school district property.
Oh, on the major league field?
Correct.
So they were cemented into the ground,
Correct.
and they didn't have permit for that?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
There was one more here. On Measure H project requests, I was just curious if we can get a little list on the project request on district property. I'd like to.
I don't have that with me. I can get that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Item IC, Recreation. Miss Diane, how are you this evening? Mr. Yearwood, do you have any questions on this, on the Recreation report?
Yes, what was the final nail in the coffin, so to speak? What was the mechanical issue at the pools that finally signaled their end?
Well, there was the heater that died 2 weeks, well, at the beginning of July. We had issues with the filtration system, and they were going to need to replace the cartridges and/or purchase material to refresh them. And I believe those two, well, the heater would have been a very large cost. We were looking at a cost of over $300 to make that repair for 2 weeks.
Secretary Lineback. Vice Chair Sloan?
You know, these kids don't care about the heat. They'll just dive in that water and they'll be there for hours and hours. My kids do it all the time.
Unless they're there at 7 in the morning on the swim team, and they do care.
That could be different.
Correct.
All right, you're right. I didn't think about that one.
Thank you. Let's move on to communications. Director Yearwood. Secretary Lineback. Vice Chair Sloan?
No, I just hope it's going well for you. You're getting acclimated in your new position here. I'd like to see you out there at the Motown concert. And look forward to talking to you on one-on-one one of these days.
Great. I have no questions. Let's move on to Human Resources, Ms. White. Director Yearwood. Secretary Lineback. Vice Chair Sloan? I have none. Ms. White, you're getting off quick tonight. Item I2, District Administrator's Report.
Yes, thank you, Chair Danzel and Board. In front of you have my report for the timeframe listed. I do want to circle back around on a couple of items mentioned or requested just in the last item. I can tell you that according to the Measure H staff report, the following items were funded by the council under the headline of Project Development Fund, Further Research Agency Collaboration Needed. That's the Pause in the Park Dog Park in Lincoln Village, I do believe, is that request, for $30,000. The Frisbee Golf Course for $20,000. Sun River Neighborhood Association Physical Fitness Park Course in Sun River Park for $11,000. Not on our property, I assuming it says FCUSD is design and reengineering for a potential remodel of Mills Middle School. I'm assuming that is the softball complex. Rancho Cordova Little League revitalized baseball complex. I'm not sure if that's our complex or our park property or a different property. And then another amount for 100,000. Well, there was a request for 5 million. It was funded for $100,000 for improvements to the complex. So out of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items, it looks like 5 of them potentially are on our property. And once again, under the heading of Project Development Fund for the Research Agency Collaboration. So that's what we have going forward with the city.
Jim, do we know which park they've talked about for the Frisbee golf?
No, we do not.
You think you know?
Director Gerwood and I have both gotten an email from a constituent that went to the city council to ask for this, and it's not technically a park that they're asking for, it's almost a drainage ditch that they're asking for, but you have to access through our property to get to it. So some of the holes would be on the edge of our property, some of them would be on the detention basin and drainage ditch. So there's other issues that have been brought up about that, whether it can even be done, so. But it's out in the Stone Creek area.
I think it's important to note, and Director Yearwood had attended, I think, a majority of these meetings, if I'm not incorrect, in regards to Measure H funding with the council. But one of the dismaying issues is the fact that at the end of this process, the applicants were asked whether or not they had talked to the district. And this is an ongoing issue for us because it puts a lot of pressure on our planning department to not be at the front end of this process. What I have asked Laura Taylor to do at this point in time is to establish a policy on how we deal with requests coming to the district through Measure H. And the general policy that will come to the board and the suggestion of staff is that unless they're vetted with us first, we're not going to consider them if they've been funded without basically our input. And here's why. We have a master plan, and a master plan is very intricate. For instance, in the master plan and new development, we do have a Frisbee golf course. But if you look at the amount that they're asking for at $20,000, it is sufficiently minimal in comparison to the actual cost. The assumption that community groups can build items in our park is really an erroneous one, and it's erroneous for a number of reasons. One is product. The product we find that they're speccing is not to our standard by any means. 2 is, in order for an item to go on our park, it has to be professionally installed because of the liability issues. And not only that, when we talk about the product, we talk about product liability. These costs, as we've reviewed them, are 3 and sometimes 4, if not in the case of the Frisbee golf course, 5 times the amount that they've requested. And none of this takes into consideration long-term maintenance or where we put these items in the park. Whether or not a dog park actually technically works at Lincoln Village is a significant issue. We went through this in Anatolia with Heron Landing. The people wanted a dog park there, but when you put a dog park that close to that much activity, there is an increase in liability there as well. Dog parks are very specific properties that need to have a lot of buffer zone around them in order to protect both the dogs and the other users of the park. So there are a lot of design issues. The problem being is our planning staff is impacted significantly right now with just our own projects. So my suggestion of the board is that we consider some direction to us on putting together a letter outlining our concerns about this process in conjunction with the fact that we need to develop a policy. And we'll bring that to you in the next meeting for your review and discussion. But it is a serious issue for us. It's creating, we've had to meet with a couple of these organizations out of the scope of what we're currently working on. And once again, we have a number of projects moving right now, not the least of which is we probably would not entertain any additional projects until we resolve the major one on the table, and that is the Hagan Community Pool. So there is a priority this district also must follow. And none of this has been considered in the discussion or the narrative on Measure H. My concern, professionally, politically, my concern is this board's being set up to fail. Professionally, it really is not the way we should be communicated to by an outside agency. And that needs to be communicated and corrected in some way, shape, or form. And we'll work with the board to find a manner, an acceptable manner to do that.
Thank you, Administrator Rooms. Any other questions on his report at this time?
Yeah, Jim, can you just go over your meeting with Chair Danzel and Councilman Terry and Interim City Manager Cyrus Abhar about the Hagan Pool?
I think without portraying or betraying any confidences, I think I can give you the gist that there was in Councilmember Terry's comments at a council meeting a lot of dismay from us on the inaccuracies of the discussion. And we sat down and spoke to both Cyrus, Chair Danzel and I spoke to Cyrus and Councilmember Terry on what the practical reality is for the pool. There's this overwhelming idea that the council believes they need some sort of control over that facility to make sure it never gets into this condition again, without any realization or understanding that the condition of the pool is a funding issue for infrastructure replacement. We're not asking for long-term operating costs. We're not asking for short-term operating costs. The challenges on the pool come from the fact that the district had not saved to repair, and in concert with that, an erosion of the funding source via a number of issues, state-generated, most of them, to be able to replace this level of infrastructure. This is one of the highest cost infrastructures we have as a district. It is also our highest program liability with the district. I don't believe they even understand that the annual operating costs for almost all aquatics facilities that we know of do not cover themselves financially. There is a subsidy there, and it's a subsidy as a service to the community, and it's generally not a moneymaker. It is subsidized to a level starting in most communities somewhere in the high 20% range, 28%, and really getting past the 50% range in many instances. The other issue is most communities, if you look to, for instance, the city of Sacramento, they've filled in pools for this specific reason. So one of the things that needed to be educated is the fact that we've really managed this facility well beyond its practical lifetime. And the need for this facility is actually very germane to our provision now. For instance, the need to make sure that we're providing in this socioeconomic area of the district a program that teaches children how to swim adjacent to a large body of water is a philosophical issue that the board has supported over the years in the continued maintenance of that. So I think there were some misunderstandings that Mr. Terry unfortunately vocalized publicly that we addressed in that meeting. And then I think we came away quite hopeful that we can find some median ground. I'll be meeting with Cyrus Abhar, I believe next week, to come back to an MOU. We'll once again submit an MOU on the park renovation fees that have been collected in excess of $800,000 to hopefully put towards this project.
Great.
Once again, that goes to an approval of the city council. So really all we've really talked about is the fact that all we did was Measure H was apply for a process that the city said was an open process. And somehow that evolved into something that we didn't intend it to. And that was an unfortunate issue, but I think we cleared the air on that. Hopefully we can move forward and work to find some common ground there.
Great.
Would you like to add anything to that? You were in that meeting.
No, there was tension between the Park District and the city, and I think we got some of that tension worked away that day. We're supposed to be getting back together in the next week or so to discuss what Councilman Terry and myself had asked the administrator and the interim city manager to do and figure out if there is a possibility of funding that they're not on the hook to continue keeping the pool open, and they shouldn't be, so.
I've had also additional requests. I see a note in front of Mr. Danzel that I said I would come back and address, because Director Yearwood also had this question to me via an email last week, and hearing in another meeting the timeline. Let's talk briefly about the timeline. We have on the FAQ the timeline for this project, and it's not really a timeline. It's more of a step situation for us. We put a lot of padding in this because, once again, any construction project, especially any renovation project you do, they tend to be more complex, they tend to cost more than new builds, and they tend to be delayed more because discovery tends to be a huge thing. In other words, when we start tearing things up, we find things we didn't know exist. So we put a lot of space in the construction schedule. Right now, we are in the process of developing the RFP to be released. On our best guess estimate of what we'd like to start this project would be somewhere between November and December, if I'm not incorrect, based upon the schedule that we have to build. So we now sit in August. We have a window where the RFP is being developed, and then we have a window where it's released. Then we bring it back to you and talk about then the feasibility and the actual hard timelines. There was a comment that was made in the public about, well, we're not going to get this pool back for 2 years. The reality is we said it would not be 100% functional for competition until 2017. It doesn't mean that the pool's not going to be open until 2017. So I wanted to make sure that we were clear on that. The other issue is we believe, based upon notes given to us by our engineer, that we have enough money to do the infrastructure of the facility, and that's for, I believe, all pools. So not just the competition pool, but the diving pool and the wading pool, the children's pool. And all that does is get us to a point where it's functional, operating, not leaking, usable. All of the cosmetics and some of the practical, usable pieces may not be established, but they will be. It'll be a usable facility. That is the best guess scenario by the engineer. Once again, when the RFP comes back, we'll have a very clear understanding of what those costs are once we get bids in. So it's really all contingent on that process.
Mr. Lynch, I hope that answers your questions from earlier.
Yeah, I imagine we'll go over this in more detail too at the town hall meeting on the 27th of this month.
Yes.
And hopefully there'll be some city council members in attendance at that meeting.
Thank you. Let's move on to item J, communications, articles, correspondence, and public outreach. We have them in front of us. Any questions on those? Hearing none, let's go
I have a question. We got a number of, we got so many of these postcards, and I'm really was excited to read through them. And I'm glad to hear too that the city council also got these sent to them, which was a great effort by the Marlins and the aquatic program over at Hagen. I think I applaud you for that. And they say a lot. These are a lot of historical people that have grown up in this pool, and these are probably their children who are growing up in that same pool and speaking out. So these go a long way for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Item K, future agenda items, calendar of events. Item K1, Tuesday informational board meeting, date August 18th, 2015, topics to be determined. At this time, I do not believe there is any topics. The recommendation is to cancel this meeting. Do I hear anything from the board on canceling or keeping this meeting?
Need a motion?
No, I don't, I can. So, do we need a motion? Nope, then I will take and I will say we will cancel that meeting. On the 18th, the second topic is September 22nd, 2015.
We would suggest, staff would suggest that you just keep this one as a placeholder. We do know that we're working on our policy projects and that policy manuals and a couple of other projects that it might be a good opportunity to come back and move through items as well. That's the previous week, correct?
That is the
No,
week you're
that
in
is the
Monterey.
week
I
you're in
apologize.
Monterey.
See, this is
So if
why I
we-
have heard you
if
my
we
schedule
hold-
and not
If we
me.
hold it, we will have to agendize it and post it down there. Three
Or you
four
could
of
hold
us
it
are
and just not tell anybody. I know the clerk loves that.
Actually, a quorum has to be within the district boundaries in order to have the meeting.
Okay, so that meeting will be canceled as well.
I would suggest that we find a time to potentially reschedule that meeting if need be. Like I said, we can take it out as a placeholder for that week, but we may put it on your schedule at some point in time.
Maybe the week before or the week after, so, okay. Thank you. Item K2, regular board meeting date, September 16th, 2015. The Cordova Community Council will be presenting their 4th of July financial report. At that point, I spoke with them yesterday. They are still working on some bills. They just got a lump sum bill of, here, this is what you need to pay us, but not what equipment they used and things like that. So they're still working out on some of those bills. Item K3 is the board and district administrators calendar for August and September. Is there any changes that anybody sees on that? So we can let the clerk know, or Ms. Jones, is there anything that needs to be added to that came up tonight?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to comment on the postcards you all received regarding the town hall for the pool on August 27th. Wanted to let you know that we have many of those cards available. You're free to take as many as you would like and distribute at events and such.
Great, thank you. At this time, we will go to item L, closed session. Administrator Rhodes, can you please read the, I believe, 4 items that are on there tonight?
Yes, thank you, Chair Danzel. This evening, we have 4 items. If I can find where I put my last page.
Just the same thing.
Here we go. Thank you. Item L1 is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.9. Name of case, Kathy Spindola, case number 34-2015-00131058. Item L2 is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.9. Name of case, Gary Lawrence, case number 34-2014-001-71917. Item L3 is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to the California Government Code Section 54956.9. Number of potential cases is 1. And then item L4 is conference with labor negotiator pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.6, agency designated representative Andrea White, unrepresented employee, the district administrator.
Thank you. At this time, at 8:27, we will go into closed session.